Grainmaker. Welcome, everyone, to the Grainmaker Wrestling Podcast, a very proud wrestling podcast covering everything from Winnipeg to worldwide. My name is Blair Pacheco. It's been a few weeks since I've dropped a podcast. You know, I was just relaxing, taking my time, but we're back, and I am very, very excited for my guest. It's someone who I've been following out on the West Coast for a while, past couple of years. They have really started to come into their own as of late. And, we've been working to get this done. They were down in Mexico. We're going to talk about that right away. But joining me here on the Grainmaker Wrestling Podcast, it's Magnum Mel. Mel, how's it going?
Oh, it's going so well, Blair. Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited when you asked me about it. I used to do community radio for several years, and so I hosted my own show while I was in university. And this is just such a nice, like, throwback kind of feeling. So very stoked to be here. Real convergence of my interests.
You know what? I actually went to school for radio, TV broadcasting, like, way back years ago, and like I worked in TV for years, but I found like the more it went on, like the less jobs there were, and
Yes.
it was like they keep pumping out all the students, but there's nowhere for them to work. And I only lasted a few years, but it was a great time doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I experienced the same thing. Yeah.
So I often think about like my schooling and stuff, and it was a great time doing it. You know, like I still remember like going to class. Well, we'll talk about wrestling right away, but I figure I still remember going to class and like being able to make like commercials and stuff, and even like one for the university station here. So like it's nice knowing that other people like dabbled in radio and stuff too. It's a nice little like thing, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so enough of me rambling. I got to ask, when I first reached out to you, you had mentioned you're down in Mexico, and here's me thinking you're on vacation, living your best life. No, you were down there training. What was that like for you heading down to Mexico?
Yeah. Well, I went to Mexico City for the first time last October. I have some friends in Tijuana, so I stopped there first and was like hanging out, went to a AAA show, and then went off to Mexico City. Turns out it's like one of the coolest places on earth, and I didn't train when I was there last time, but I had the opportunity to go back, I guess just a couple of weeks ago. And I kind of told some people that I was going to be training down there, and then the date was getting closer and closer. I'm like, probably shouldn't have told people that I would do that, because now I have to actually try. And I was really nervous. Lucha Libre is such a different style than, like, I guess, Canadian strong style as I've been trained. And so I really wasn't sure what to expect. I know it's there's a lot of intensity involved in training at a lot of Mexican Lucha Libre gyms. So the first one I went to was the first day that I got there. I arrived at midnight, and 20 hours later, I was at one of the gyms out there. And I was so nervous. Oh my gosh, I can't even describe to you how like scared and embarrassed I was just to be there. But it was a really supportive environment. It was a lot of fun. I had such a great time. I decided that I would go to a different gym the next day. And such and such just followed. And so I trained from Monday to Friday. And then, I took the weekend off to actually do vacation stuff. I went to some museums, but yeah, the training was just such an experience. I'm so blessed to have been able to do that. I'd go back anytime. I would go back tomorrow if I could. So, I'm very grateful that I made myself do it.
Like, I think that's incredible. Like, to put yourself in that position, to continue to learn in like a completely different country, different styles. And I mean, walking in there with the knowledge you already had, what was one of the more difficult things, trying to pick up? Because I mean, different styles right off the bat. Was it an easy transition getting into it?
So that's kind of an interesting question, because I was not sure which parts would actually end up being different in a training sense, since we weren't planning any matches or doing any real, I guess, progression of drills and such. I kind of thought we'd be going in, learning some moves, doing some warm-ups, like the regular stuff that we would do at training out here. But we pretty much got right into it, doing like pretty difficult combos and spots. And we turn in a different direction here than they do in Mexico. So we lock up in the opposite direction. It was just very interesting. Everybody was very gentle and kind because a lot of folks down there have wrestled in Canada or in the United States where we do strong style. And so it was, I think, difficult in the sense of the cardio, I would say, was that's what really got me.
So now I want to ask, I mean, were you able to, like, there was no potential for any matches or anything like that while you were down there? Was that ever discussed?
No, there definitely were. Yeah,
Okay.
I purposefully, I turned down several opportunities before I went. I think I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I would be too far out of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
At this point, I regret it. As soon as I got there after the first few training sessions, I realized that I should have just continued to push myself. But it was a real situation if you don't know what you don't know. And so it really could have been anything that they were throwing at me. And I think next time I go, I would try harder to push myself and work on my consistency of confidence, I guess, because I feel bad for turning down the opportunities. Honestly, it was a very foolish thing for me to do.
Mhm. I think it's, it's understandable in a sense though, because I mean, when you're going into a different place altogether, a different style of wrestling, I mean, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position possible. So like,
Yeah.
things you don't know at the time, but at least now you know for next time when you go down, they're like, hey, you can step into there, you can hang with them, and it will work out great for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And thank you for saying that. That's the whole thing. I would want to represent myself well. I want to represent my dojo well. And I wouldn't want to, you know, represent the other person badly. Like, they do a lot of group matches down there as well, which I'm not super familiar with, and all the like multi-man and stuff. With the turning being different, I just, I didn't want to embarrass anyone, including myself. So.
If I'm being completely honest, I did check out Cage Match and some of the Mexican promotions. I was like, I'm just gonna see if like she did wrestle a match down there just in case to bring it up. So
Yeah.
you never
Yeah.
know.
You never know. Yeah. And next time I'll go for it. I'll have that confidence in myself and others. I did do several mock matches while down there. Um, and oh yeah, that's definitely the part that was the strangest to me was planning those mock matches using partially a translator app. I speak very basic Spanish at this point. And we were using the translating app to plan our matches. And the names for everything are just different down there. And so, Bandera translates to flag and Alita is wing and stuff. And I reading it through the translator app with the girl that I was planning with, I'm like, yeah, totally, yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's just walk through it though, maybe just to kind of, and then I realized it was all the stuff that we've been working on. And it was a really funny and humbling experience. But, I'm just so grateful that I did it.
Now, where did your love for wrestling first start? Like, do you remember what sort of kind of got you hooked with wrestling?
For sure, yeah. So I was not allowed to watch wrestling growing up. My family wanted me to have much more gentle and feminine interests, which didn't necessarily work out very well anyways. I was into like all this like emo and occult stuff growing up and like, I'm gonna go in the forest with my friends and look for deer bones and stuff, which is something I actually did several times. But yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling because they didn't like that I was watching that violence. And so my cousins were allowed to watch it, and they're a little bit younger than me. So sometimes I was able to watch with them when I was visiting. And I was just always in the media very conscious of who China was, right? And she's just such a like domineering and powerful figure, like in just like a more feminist sense as well. And I feel like I was really drawn to that as a little kid. And I had like box dyed black hair for like half my life as well. And I feel like so much of it was influenced by that kind of similar aesthetic and idea and concept of being like a strong woman. And so about 12 years ago now, when I was like 19 years old, I was dating somebody, and her older brother was a wrestler. And so I didn't find out until months into our relationship. And she's like, yeah, like, I don't know if you like wrestling, but my brother is actually like on some of the shows that are local here. We started going to a ton of wrestling shows, and I just like fell in love with it. It was so amazing and intense to see these just like local people putting on these shows, and just the theatrics of it was just so appealing to me, and I wanted to do it so badly. At the time, I was not athletic. I was like doing community radio during my undergrad and stuff, and just like talking about feminism. And um, so I didn't really get a chance to try out. It just didn't really work out that way. I moved to Ontario. I lived in Ottawa for several years trying to be a radio star, weirdly enough. And yeah, when I came back during COVID, I happened to see this random social media post about something totally irrelevant. And I'm like, that's Nicole Matthews. She's a wrestler that I used to watch when we were watching shows all those years ago. And I looked at her profile. I saw that she was teaching at one of the schools around here, and the tryouts were a couple of weeks away, and they only do tryouts twice a year. And so, it really just kind of came together from there. I tried out and I got in, and, the ton of the people that I used to watch 10 years ago are now people that I know in real life, and like some of them are my friends. And it's so interesting the way that that happened. I never really got into TV wrestling or anything. I was just very big into the live show scene, like, wrestling and music and stuff, and all the theatrics of putting on a show. And I was working in like corporate team building at the time as well. It was just all really strange. It was all these strange things that kind of came together, and all led to this today.
It's funny because I always tell people, like, if you've never been to a show, like if you go with an open mind, you will find something that you will be drawn to, whether it's, some of the wrestlers, the music, like the sort of like ambiance of a wrestling show. And I invited a couple people I know to their first show a few weeks back, and they can only stay for half of it. But like right away, they were like, they were excited just about like seeing so many, like it was two girls and this one girl's partner. And they're really wrestling fans, but right away they were drawn to just like, the strong female wrestlers, because it's something
Yeah.
that like you don't normally get to see a lot of, so like the fact that, yeah, there's different, people with different personalities, and different body types, different strengths. And like that was something that they really liked, was that like it showcases more than just like, hey, dudes wrestling, or like your standard wrestling show. And I think that is one of the most like incredible things about professional wrestling, is that when it's done right, it can create new fans in an instant.
Absolutely, absolutely. It takes something so small, like a specific personality trait in someone's character, that can really draw someone in so quickly and like make a lifelong fan out of them. I can't even remember anything specific that I loved so much from those first shows that I watched. I mean, first of all, I'm being encouraged to yell during a show, which is just great. I love to be loud. But yeah, just like watching these people throw each other and hit each other, it's just such a powerful thing to watch. And also knowing that, like, not to break kayfabe, but it's not always real. And that's so appealing as well, right? Like, I get to go, I get to beat up my friends. They're beating me up right back, and we're loving it. Like, it's
Mhm.
it's so funny, and it's so um, powerful to somebody. Just yesterday, I was wrestling at a children's festival in the morning, and my mom actually watched me wrestle for the first time. And, she watched me give some buff dude a Death Valley driver, and I have never seen her so excited in my whole life. And after, she just like was almost crying. She was so stoked to have seen me do that. And, um, I mean, she's my mom, but like also having like young girls come up to me after, and it's the same thing where they're like, ah, you threw that guy. Like, it's so much fun, I just love it.
I mean, I was going to ask later, but like the fact that, like, China was somebody that almost inspired you, like it can't be lost on you, the impact you have on like younger girls and younger kids, like in your position that you are in right now.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and like very conscious of the idea that like somebody who's more in the public eye is to be seen as more of a role model, whether or not it's intentional. And something to always be mindful of. Like in my day job, I do like presentations and stuff. I'm a representative for a nonprofit, and just like having that consciousness all the time that people are watching and looking up to you, whether or not it's intentional. I work with kids a lot too, and like they love my pink hair and stuff. And so I'm just so excited that, me when I was 9 years old would look at me now and be so, you know, impacted by the person that they see, right? And like, not even I'm trying to be some sort of feminist role model. It's just like, it's just such a good feeling for a girl to have someone to look up to and be like, oh, I can be really strong. I can like, do all these crazy things and like be really loud and still, you know, just be able to be myself and not worry about judgment because, ultimately those poor opinions don't really matter.
The first time I took my daughter to a show, it was when it was one of the WPW put on a show at the museum here. It's a big show, and instantly she was drawn because Ava Lawless was wrestling there, and she wanted to meet Ava and got a picture taken with her, and Ava had even asked her, like, hey, can I lift you up? And my daughter was amazed that, like, she's picking her up and everything. And it's like, it's incredible just to see the smile on kids' faces when it comes to stuff like that, that knowing that, like, yeah, this is something you can do too in the future.
Yes. And it's such a memorable thing, right? Like I have vivid memories of like different times I saw someone really cool and met someone really cool when I was a little kid. And just to be like, wow, there's so much potential for, the type of person that I could be when I grow up. And I'm not limited to some specific thing that maybe my family wanted for me, or, maybe my peers are wanting that I don't want. Um, and yeah, there have definitely been moments too where I was working heel, but I was one of the only women on the show. And so I had some girls come up really excited during intermission to talk to me, and I had to be like, oh, yeah, like, like, want to get a picture or what? And I was like hiding tears. I had to turn around and be like,
Well, I want to ask with training, so you Lions Gate Dojo, correct?
yes.
Now, I mean, you see the flyers, you decide you're going to go to the tryout. What is that experience like, stepping into the building for the first time?
Yeah, it was very intense. I didn't know what to expect. I know some people try out with a friend or like bring someone with them to watch, and I just kind of took the sky train there by myself and like, walk in, you walk through these gates and it's kind of like hidden in the back of the building. And there are all these people in there and it's nobody that I know. And but like there are some of the wrestlers that I used to see and that I've seen on shows. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Of course, I haven't really tried out for other schools or other dojos. Our tryout program is quite strict. It's a very long tryout. It's over 2 hours, I believe. Half of that is basically cardio. We're there giving it our all, but also kind of pacing yourself and being really mindful of like, they're judging you on every aspect, like not just your physical performance, but like your personality and stuff too. Very vibes based, I would say, as well. Because most of it is seeing if you are coachable, right?
Mhm.
Because you wouldn't want somebody coming in who like, is a real stick in the mud or like isn't willing to learn or try things that scare them. But also, if you're not able to do any of the more physical aspect stuff, will you be able to learn it? Like, are you going to be willing to really put yourself out there and push yourself? And we always have puke buckets just in case. With like every batch of tryouts, there's at least one person. I was one of the people in my group. I'm not even afraid to say it. I definitely like really threw up during my tryout. Then I went right back in there. I just
Mhm.
sat out until I could see straight again. And then I went right back in, and I think that helped me get in. So, you know, never be never be afraid to humiliate yourself a little bit in pursuit of something that means something to you.
I think that's a good piece of advice people could kind of like take going forward. Like for yourself, I mean, you kind of mentioned like wrestling not really your thing, like the athletic sort of style, was it, what kind of surprised you about yourself when you kind of decided to try out for it? Did anything really shock you?
Um, I'm kind of surprised at my resilience, honestly. I was kind of a weakling growing up, like physically speaking. in like 2021, I started going to hot yoga like crazy. I started like working out at the gym just like for something to do, stuff was still kind of locked down at the time. And so I was looking for something to do out of the house that would like, you know, be kind of productive for myself as a person. And so I really attribute that to my success in the tryouts, doing all that hot yoga. It was the middle of the summer when I tried out. It was so hot in there, and like everybody's sweating and like slipping on each other's sweat. It was really like something out of a movie. It was just so nasty. But I'm surprised that, and still to this day, I'm surprised that how many times I'll fall down that I'll just get back up again and keep trying because, you know, in my mid to late 20s, I wouldn't really have done that.
Mhm.
So I'm very proud of myself for continuing on even when I don't feel like I'm good enough or when I like don't feel like I'm at the place where I should be, either in wrestling or in like my regular life, right? Like nobody is really, I feel like, well, not nobody. I know some people who are exactly where they want to be in life at this point, but I feel like, you never really know what's coming through the pipes for you. And, things can change so rapidly, that I just feel very lucky for all the weird stuff I get up to, especially these days with like wrestling and, the training in Mexico when I could have just gone to have a relaxing vacation.
You could have been sitting on a beach somewhere, just like living your best life. Instead, you're sweating in a gym, getting thrown
Straight
around.
up. Yeah.
So, I mean, how long was training for you before you ended up having your first match?
I think probably a year and a half or 2 years. I think a year and a half-ish until I got to do like a dojo wars, which is kind of our preliminary, like it's like our testing or like our exams before we're given the go ahead to start taking bookings. I definitely was not quick on the uptake. I've never really been super athletic. I'm definitely in the best shape of my life at this point, but even then, it was still like something I was working towards. And so I debuted on Glam Slam, which is this like burlesque wrestling variety show that we have in Vancouver. And crazy enough, they've been around for over 10 years now. But I went to the first ever Glam Slam on Halloween or something. I don't know. I was dressed as sexy Beetlejuice, and I yeah, and I remember watching the show and being like, I want to do that one day. That's going to be me one day, and being so sure about it and turning to my partner and being like, that's going to be me one day. And she was like, yeah, I mean, why not? And then it actually was. And, I don't think I ever actually expected that. And so to have experienced that as my first ever, like my debut, just means so much to me. And like, it's a real like hero's journey kind of thing, not to be corny, but
I don't see any corniness with it, because I think so many times people always say like, oh, I want to do this or I want to do
yeah.
that, but like they don't put the effort in. They talk a big game, but when it comes time to it, they just are content with what they have. They don't put that extra effort in. But the fact that you were willing to, like, it was something you wanted to do and you went to training and you worked hard and you were doing hot yoga and doing all this stuff to prepare yourself, and then there you are. I think that's very commendable, and it should not be like frowned upon or anything like that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a real testament to like how far hard work will get you, especially when you're pushing through, your own self-doubt or like people around you doubting you. There's just like there's no real reason to give up on something because, all you've got is time and you
Mhm.
really don't have a lot of time either.
Yeah. Now your first match was at Glam Slam. Who was it against?
Yes. Wow, I don't even remember. I think I was like a butler character managing for the Dandies, which were like they were a recurring tag team in the Glam Slam shows. They're kind of on a hiatus right now. Glam Slam, I mean,
Mhm.
classic Vancouver thing of all of our indie venues closing down. So um, yeah, I don't remember who the Dandies were specifically. Actually, now that we say that, were they against the Lucha Babies? I don't really know. It's all very character based, but I was the butler for the Dandies, which is a character I'd seen so many times before on different Glam Slam shows. And yeah, it was just so cool. And working with Melody Mangler, she is the promoter for that show. She's like a local. burlesque superstar, basically somebody I'd also like really, really looked up to since I was much younger. And so, yeah, it was just a really cool experience. That's like something I would tell like my friends' grandkids in the future, you know?
I mean, you mentioned like, the venue sort of like kind of closing down and stuff, but it's like it seems like there are so many promotions in BC that it's like you there I find it amazing that there are enough places for all of these promotions to run because like there are so many of them. Like it's any given weekend there's going to be a show out there.
Yes, it's incredible. Like Vancouver really thrives on their live event scene, and so many of these venues are being taken away from us. A few of the shows, I think, share venues. Maybe that's not true at this moment in time. Um, that's the other thing is that people are very tenacious here. They'll make sure that they find a place for the show to go on. But yeah, it's really incredible to see the range of shows that are in the Lower Mainland area here, as we call it. Um, and like further out too, there's like 365 Pro Wrestling and BIPW on the island, which is still basically the same territory. Then like up in more central-ish BC, there's like a promotion or two. It's wild to see how many are in such a concentrated area when like in other places there are much larger territories that have much fewer
Mhm.
promotions.
So you trained for a year and a half, and what year was your first match? Was it 2023?
I think it was the very beginning of 2023, yes, or
Okay.
very end of
Okay.
2022, something like that. Yeah.
Because I remember when you had first started, following on social media and all that, because like it's one of those things you see a new wrestler, you watch some clips, yeah, shoot him a follow. It like correct me if I'm wrong, but was it you had like a debut out in Ontario like not too long after, correct?
I
Like
did, yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay.
I worked for, I believe, Off the Ropes Wrestling in
Okay.
like the not Toronto, but the Greater Toronto area. Not even the Greater Toronto area. It's big out there. Okay, I lived
Yes.
in Ottawa. I didn't live in like that part. And then I worked for 365 out there as well, and I've been working for a another promotion out there as well lately. I think it's Unified Championship Wrestling. Sorry, all the acronyms get so mixed up in my brain. But that was just so excellent, such a great experience. So lucky to go out there, try new things, meet new people. Um, I was on a pretty good trajectory at the time as well, for that first like good year and a bit.
Mhm.
And then that trip to Ontario, I got a concussion on my last day there. 2 weeks later to the day, got another concussion on Vancouver Island. And then I basically had to take all of 2024 off, or all of 2025. I don't know numbers anymore. I had a concussion.
Yeah, I think it was the 365 show that I remember seeing like an ad for because I always thought it was great that 365 ran on the island and out in
Yes,
Ontario as well, So like,
yes,
and then seeing that you were going out there, it's like, okay, well, yeah, like, hey, that to me, that means something when somebody, a year into it is already getting bookings outside of their like home
yeah,
province. I think that's something that it's a testament to the hard work you do because I know, was it last year? Yeah, last year. I remember Cherry Blossom was booked here in Winnipeg, and she had only been
yes,
wrestling for a short time, and it was like, oh yeah,
incredible.
that's a huge accomplishment for
Yes.
anyone. So I mean, with that being said, I know in 2025, actually, hold on, before I ask this, having to take a full year off, what was that like? Because I mean, you kind of get your feet wet in it, and then all of a sudden you have to pump the brakes, and like, hey, you're not able to like take part in it.
Yeah, that was honestly, I'll be real with you. It was a huge burn. I was really disappointed in myself for getting concussed. When the first one happened, I had been working a lot of bookings like every weekend. I wasn't getting a lot of time between. I also like obviously like most wrestlers, I had like a regular job as well. I was working two regular jobs at the time. I was working corporate events and then at a restaurant. And just I had no downtime at all. And I think this is going to sound a little bit like haughty of myself, but to have such a like a fast up and up trajectory, not that I was doing anything super crazy, it just was a little bit overwhelming for me. It was not really anything that I'd planned for or expected. I love wrestling as like a hobby that's extremely time consuming and like very stressful at times, and it's just such a dynamic experience. But like ultimately, I just like have a lot of stuff in my like regular life as well that like takes up a lot of my time and like my like emotional bandwidth. And so I think it was really a sign that I had been needing to slow down for a while. And you know, first concussion, I hit the front of my face during, I think, like a honestly, yeah, don't even ask me what I hit the front of my head, okay?
Mhm.
And then the second one I got, my neck was still weak from hitting myself so hard a couple of weeks before that I just like took a tackle and my head just snapped back and I just like was delirious. Like it was like in cartoons when you have like the little stars and little birdies flying around
Yeah.
your head. And I was like, whoa, I think something bad is happening right now. And it was really scary. And I kind of, as is maybe to be expected, like I cried a bunch after the match because I knew that like I was just hooped and I really would have to take some time off. And then turned out what I really needed was a rest, right?
Mhm.
Ended up getting the job that I have now, which like, you know, to be able to go from having two part-time jobs and like a lot of the time working both those jobs in the same day and then like also training like the days in between that and stuff and not really getting any days off. I just like needed to take that break and like, you know, let myself rest and let myself heal. And then I wasn't even going to come back to wrestling for a while. I ended up doing the C4 women's tournament in March of, I think, 2025.
Yeah.
And that was just such an amazing experience. It really like brought back my love for wrestling. I think, you know, I couldn't even consider turning down that opportunity at the time. I still wasn't like fully healed from being concussed, but I'm really glad that I did that. I met so many incredible women. Like women's wrestling is better than it ever has been. You know, I think in a lot of history, even like pretty recent like TV wrestling history, women's wrestling is not taken very seriously. And I just don't think that's right. Like not even from like a feminist standpoint, but just from like the standpoint of like why shouldn't we all just be athletes when we train the same places? You know, we train the same moves and do
Mhm.
the same like spots and stuff at training. Um, and so it just like I realized how important it was for me to come back to wrestling and to like I guess restart my journey with like a whole different viewpoint of the industry and like, you know, what's important to me and what actually drives me and what like keeps me going in wrestling when it's like notoriously a very difficult industry. You know, like sometimes interpersonally, but it's also just like very physically demanding, right? And like, you know, it's not like any of us are becoming millionaires doing wrestling, even people who are on TV. So it's just like it's really doing it for the love of it and like seeing the parts that are rewarding and just like with so many other things in life, like, you know, you have to take the bad with the good and just the good is just so much more powerful. It's like, you know, the good parts are so much better than like the bad parts are bad and that really keeps me going.
Nice. I mean, I feel like you've seen my notes here because I was building up to asking about the C4 show. So like, okay, we touched on that. An incredible like array of talent on that show. I mean, when you look
Yes.
at the lineup, so many of like, you know, some of the top like independent women right now, and then like such an incredible mixture of like just talented Canadian wrestlers in there. Like
Yes.
I think Chris Dara was on there and
Yeah.
Zandra Leah, a whole bunch. So it's like really incredible just to see a show like that. C4 does an incredible job with their shows. And I think like
Such an incredible show.
yeah. So like when you see all women shows like that, like it's a great thing for wrestling, and it's like just gets more eyes on the incredibly talented wrestlers out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was like one of the most valued experiences of my life, like inside and outside of wrestling, just to be surrounded with so many women who are so strong and all so different and like so talented in their own specific ways and just seeing that all come together. Like, you know, that's the best part of wrestling anyways, is just seeing the different ways that people can be paired up and like bring their own special like flair and their own special, you know, character work, not to like, you know, look at it from the back end, right? So much of it is like character work and
Mhm.
performance and just the way that that all comes together and creates something so unique that you just can't recreate twice in a row. Like just it's so good.
I want to ask. I mean, we're halfway through 2026, which is ridiculous to think about, but we're already in June, 6 months in. How have you felt so far about your 2026 so far?
I am so happy that I have gotten back into wrestling. I don't wrestle a ton, but like earlier this year, I did have like a good run of bookings that just I was meeting a bunch of new really cool people. I was doing a bunch of cool matches, working on like some new moves for my move set, and that's been so amazing. Really working on my fitness, which has been uh, such a big thing for me. I feel like when I took the time off, I did also like I wasn't like slacking in the gym necessarily. I was just taking it easy to let my brain heal, which is good.
Mhm.
It's good that I did that, but it is hard to look back and see some of the progress that I had initially been making and like, what I'd been working towards before that happened, before I had to take some time off. But I'm kind of back on my top game now. I'm like, I really truly feel I'm doing better than I ever have before, in wrestling and with my like fitness journey. And I'm just so happy about it. I'm very happy about it. I'm really excited for some stuff I have coming through the pipes these days, inside and outside of wrestling. It's just, and so much of it is connected, like you don't really, I think for me, a lot of my like personal life stuff and wrestling stuff has been so connected because so much time and dedication goes into wrestling. And, to surround myself with people who are understanding of that and like very supportive of that. Really having people in your corner will make such a difference in like every aspect of your life. So I'm really excited about where things are going, for the rest of the year, kind of continuing to work hard at stuff. And I think I have some really big stuff coming through next year. I'm very excited.
Nice. I always like to ask, memorable matches, like matches that really stand out to you, whether it's matches, moments, anything like that, but ones that you're proud of.
So I wrestled a match, one of my only matches against Cherry Blossom. I've wrestled her a few times, but there are other people I've wrestled more. Our, I think, first match together when she was very new was at 365. Turned out to be a title match. Becky Beach was kind of giving up her title due to her own injury. And so me and Cherry were wrestling for it. And both of us worked so hard during that match and it went so well. And we were in this really cool venue called Wheelies. It's like this outdoor, like biker bar type of venue. And the weather was beautiful and like everything went so well. And I really feel like we had this like mind meld situation working together. And then, in the end, I won the title and just like, she's such an incredible worker. She's such a smart person. I know you've interviewed her
Mhm.
as well, and so like you know what I'm talking about. She's just so great, and she's gonna go so far. And to be able to work with her and have such a great match, and have all the energy of it being a championship like title match as well was just so amazing.
Nice. Um, I always ask for a match recommendation. So one you're a fan of, and it can be like any wrestlers, any promotions, whether it's TV, independents, but like one you're a fan of that you think the listener should go check out.
Yeah. Some of my favorite matches to watch are like 90s Joshi wrestling matches. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers is Manami Toyota. Like any of her matches, and she has one, I believe, against Debbie Malenko, who's another one of my favorites to watch. It's so great. It's so high energy, and those girls just feed on each other, and
Mhm.
like I love it. I love it.
So I had mentioned to Mel earlier that I want to try something new here on the podcast. Five very random questions, not necessarily wrestling related, but five very random questions, just for something fun to do. And Mel is very, was okay with being the first person to do this. So here are the five questions. So, all right, if you could go to dinner with any Muppet, who are you choosing?
Oh. Beaker, probably the
Yeah,
like Meep Meep guy. Yeah,
yeah.
no, I love the Muppets. I was such a huge fan of the Muppets growing up. I share a birthday with Jim Henson. It was like a passion of mine growing up. And like, uh, Benson Beaker, a Dr. Honeydew, is that his name? I don't
Yeah.
remember the name. Yeah, I think that would be really fun. Statler and Waldorf as well.
Yep.
Their insults are just top notch.
All right. If you're going on a road trip and you can only
Okay.
bring one album to listen to, what are you choosing?
Gorillaz Demon Days.
All right. Okay. I've been recommended a lot of Gorillaz lately, so I think I need to check them out.
It's a sign.
Favorite cartoon or show as a kid?
My favorite show was Viva La Bam and Wild Boys and the Jackass TV show. My brother and I watch those shows all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It really contributed to what I'm like as a person. And I'm thankful for that.
I still will put on like the CKY DVDs regularly just for shits and giggles. They did not age well, but it's still
no. I have the DVD box set over there of the CKY show, and I'm not pulling that one out of parties.
Not at all. What was the last book you read?
So I've been part of a book club for over a year now, with my friend and some of her lifelong friends, and I've never read one of the books. I just go and I eat the snacks. Last book I read, actually, I see so I'm halfway through a couple of different books. There's Juggalo Country, which I found in like a little free library in Vancouver. It's like about like the Insane Clown Posse and like the Juggalo culture and stuff. That's just like just a casual interest of mine. There's also a book about it's like a Vancouver anthology. I can't see the exact title. It's kind of far away, but it's about the history of Vancouver and just like the evolution of culture here and like that's like the arts culture, but also the social culture as well. I'm just very interested in like sociology and stuff. I mean, hence that like Juggalo book as well. Very interesting to see the way that societies form and act over time.
I'm very interested about the Juggalo thing because like I'm not an ICP fan at all, but like you see the like clips from like the gathering of the Juggalos and stuff, and I'm like, this is incredible. I want to experience this one day just to see what this is like in person. But
truly, my friend's band played there like a year or two ago, and I was so insulted that they didn't invite me to go with them. That would have just been the coolest thing ever. Just as like an observer, maybe I would wear the makeup, but like
100%. And last question, what is one place or city in BC that you think people need to see?
Oh, Radium Hot Springs. Is that in BC or is that Alberta? It's just like a little rural area, that or Trail BC or Golden BC. They're both small towns, super beautiful. Golden is such a beautiful place to go for like a walk and just like look around the town. It's nothing super exciting, but in the summer, I've been on like many road trips across BC with my family and my friends growing up, and Golden is a place that we would always stop. Yeah.
Nice. All right. What do you have for upcoming shows that people can see you at?
I'm going to be on Unified Championship Wrestling on August 15th in Etobicoke, Ontario. And then I think I probably have one more in there somewhere, but a lot of this summer is just going to be like camping and weddings.
Hey, that's all right.
I'm at that age.
Now, if people want to see upcoming shows, if you post them on social media, where can they find you on social media or anything else you would like to plug?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at Magnum_Mel. I don't post a lot. I'm not really that kind of person, but that's where all the updates go. I should post more. I feel like I could only benefit from that.
Well, Mel, I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a rambler, so.
Thank you to Mel, and thank you for checking out the podcast. I say it every time. I always say it. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to me talk wrestling. If it's your first time listening, you can find me up on all social media at Grainmaker Wrestling Podcast, up on all podcast streaming platforms, and up on YouTube. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know that, so I don't know why I'm plugging it. But thanks for checking out the podcast. We'll talk soon. Grainmaker.